Okay, this little video is just to show the process of creating a team inside Teams directly. So I'm naming this particular team for one of my GCSE classes, Year 9 GCSE class. So 2023 is the year of completion. And you'll notice I'm creating the name of the class so that I don't have to rename it in future years. Now, the only pain in the neck with doing this process manually is actually putting the student names in. And so if you happen to, as I've got here, an output from Sims with the names of the class in a little class list, then you can just copy and paste each name directly into the name list. And after a few seconds, it resolves, hopefully, the name of the student. Now, I'm going to speed this process up, but as I do that, just be aware that sometimes you may have to delete the first name or just sort of start deleting the name in order for it to actually find a match, particularly in cases where, as you might have just seen there, a name like Freddie and Frederick don't quite match up with the name that's actually officially on Sims. And once you've gone through and put the names in, you'll end up with a class that's been completed. As you can see, I've speeded this up. This actually took 3 minutes or so to complete for this process. There are also a few other little things that it's useful, I found useful to do with a team. The first thing, obviously, when you've created a new team, it'll actually be right at the bottom of the pile. So I do tend to just drag that team to an appropriate location a bit higher up. So I've got my important teams towards the top of the list. Now, the entire process you've just seen is, of course, not needed if the automatically created teams have completely populated. But if you want to create a team in advance of the school year, you will have to do that manual process in order to get the students in. Okay, so I've gone into the teams list now. I'm just going to make this full screen. And a few little settings which I've found useful just to make things look a little bit better. Now, the first one is just purely visual. You can add an icon to your team. So I tend to use this kind of circuit board icon in order to get that working, looking nice. The other setting which I find useful in the main manage team settings is to turn off the ability of students to be able to, if they are responding to a post, which they can do, actually alerting the entire team. That initiates an email to everyone in the team. It's also useful under the list of members and guests to mute students unless you actually want students to be able to create posts. With A-level students, you might find that's actually a useful thing to do. Now, we're now going to go on to the idea of creating a class notebook, and this is something which I find, which we do all the time in computing, but I think increasingly staff might find a useful thing to have available. The first thing you have to do is to create the sections, the student sections, so kind of like the section dividers in a file. And it comes with a bunch of those already, but in computing, we've already prepared a set of GCSE section headings for the sections of our course. So it's literally a case of just tapping those in or deleting the existing ones if you only want, for example, one section called classwork or something like that. So here you can see I've speeded up through now 6 minutes into this process, and I've now completed setting up the class notebook. Now, it actually takes literally a few seconds for the notebook to be created. I was actually quite impressed that I just clicked on a different little tab at the top and then back to class notebook, and the class notebook actually had been created at that stage. Now, it's not actually necessary for you or students to go into Teams in order to use the class notebook. It's actually more convenient just to access it directly in OneNote, in this case, the OneNote web app. Students and staff have to access the version of OneNote on the cloud, so the web page version, before the app for OneNote will actually pick up that you've seen that you have that OneNote in your most recent list. And as you can see at the very top of the list, I've got the one I've just created has appeared there. If we let that load in, we can then copy some content in. So if you've got content from another notebook, you can just especially if you can find it. I think I took a bit of time to work out which section I actually wanted to copy here. But yes, you can copy a section, find the new notebook, which probably is down the bottom of the list, and find the section group that you want to paste the material into. And that whole section of pages, in this case, a whole scheme of work, will be copied into the new OneNote ready for deployment to students. So that sort of process of taking existing content from an existing or old course, or even content that you've got in another format, so Word documents and things, makes OneNote really super easy. You can just throw or print content directly into OneNote pages and distribute that digitally straight to students within seconds. And as you see, if I open that up in OneNote, you can see I've got these little sections now with all my teaching materials ready to deploy to the students, and just need to do a little bit of tidying up of some of the things that come along, like the collaboration space, which I don't tend to use, and the little welcome page at the top. Just do a bit of tidying up. So this whole process takes about 9 minutes real time. And obviously this video has only been about 5 minutes, but important to remember that the first 5 minutes of that process was setting up the team. And that setup of the team is something you don't have to do if you use one of the automatic teams that have been created for you. But the flexibility of being able to create your own is actually still quite a quick process if you get into it. It's quick and annoying if you get used to it. So I hope you found this useful. Let me know if there's any support you need on this process.